Hey there, welcome back to this series and to the video 3 for creating a RAG model for a YouTube video. And in this video, what we are going to do is we are going to set up the database. We'll be setting up everything that is needed for our database. So without any further delay, let's get into our video and let's start doing the actual stuff. Okay. As you are here on your Supabase project or Supabase organization, Supabase project, anything. So what you have to do is you have to go into a table editor. Okay. I'll just increase this size. Okay. So what we are going to do is we are going to create 5 tables. Okay. I'll start with one by one. Okay. The first thing, the first thing that we are going to create is a document. Okay. I'll just go into what I did is went into new table. The name would be documents. Okay, and it's optional to give a description. I'll just give a description. This will be the documents. Okay, or let's say we just don't give it. For now, we will just disable the RLS security or row level security. Okay, now these are the columns that we will be configuring it up. The first thing is would be ID, the ID. So for every document that we are having, we need to have a unique ID, right? So the ID type should be UUID. Okay, and obviously it would be generating a random value. We don't want it to be a fixed value. If you want it to be a fixed value, you can directly configure it to get the fixed value. And the next thing is to be created at. So created at is obviously timestamps. It here we will be using timestamps TZ. TZ means including the time zone as well. Okay, and the default value will be null. Okay, and nothing else. We won't be configuring it, nothing else over here. Okay, so we'll be just saving this. Okay, so now what we did is we created our first column, and the name is not documents, it's documents. I'll just edit the table and I'll just write documents. Okay, the first thing is we created the documents. The next thing, we will create something called embedded documents. Embedded documents. Now, what are these embedded documents? These documents are basically the documents that we will be taking. We will be taking and we will be doing the embedding generation. Okay, the documents whose embeddings are being generated. Okay, here also we will just disable the RLS, row level security is not needed for now. The first thing would be obviously the ID. ID would be UUID and generate a random string. Next thing, timestamp TZ, or if we want, we can put it as to not include time zone, but I'll include the time zone as well. And the default value is, we'll just want the default value to be now. Okay. The next thing is the next column. Obviously, the next column would be the column in which the content of the entire video would be present. Content, you can say content meaning the transcript. Okay, so the content would be a text value. Okay, and it can be null. Next would be the metadata. Okay, and here the metadata would be in the form of a JSON binary. So why we are taking JSON binary? In the first video, as I said, that after taking the user input, what we are going to do is we are going to split it into chunks. So this is where we will be storing the lines and the text for those lines in the database. Okay, we'll be storing it in the form of a binary JSON format. The next thing is embedding. Embedding is the favorite task for anyone to do. So we will just have a vector. Oh, looks like we don't have a vector data. Okay, no worries. What we'll do is we will create a data type here. So let's go on YouTube, let's go on to Google and ask how to create a vector type in Supabase. So in the database section, we go to extensions. Okay, and then we search for vector and enable it. Okay, I'll just remove this for now and I'll just save it for now. So what we'll do is, as it says on the documentation, we will go into database and we have something called extensions, and we'll just search for vector. Okay, we'll just enable this. Okay, this will help us add the vector type in the documents. Okay, so here in the column we will add embedding, and the type would be okay. I think it will take a bit of time to update over here. Till then, we'll just add a document ID. Document ID. Okay, and it will be a unique ID. Okay, so these are the data types that we are creating, and I'll just do one thing. I'll save this. Okay, I'll just remove this. I'll save this, and then just refresh the database once so that we can access the vector types. So we'll go here and we'll just set embedding. The type would be vector. The type is vector, but in the document ID, rather than generating a random ID, we will just have this particular thing where the ID or the default value would be the metadatas document ID. Okay, as the text, which will be the unique ID. Okay, now we saved this. So the second column is created, or we can say the second table is created, which is called the embedded documents. Okay, let's see what is the error here. Okay, we'll look into it. So the third column that we are going to create here is the conversations. As a RAG model, what we need to have is the conversations history, or conversations like these. This is the conversation ID. Okay, when you go to ChatGPT, you get the earlier conversations, right? So that is where the conversation database column is created. So here we'll create a conversation database column, disable the RLS, ID would be UUID, okay, and the timestamp would be timestamps including the time zone. Okay, so and let's say we have the default value as now. So we'll just save it. Another table in progress for creation. The next table that we are going to create here is the table for the messages. The name would be conversation messages. So this particular table will contain all the information about the conversation messages, like which is the role of the user, which is the role of the AI, and what as the user asked the question and what is the AI given the answer as. Okay, so ID and created ad will be the same. The next thing is the conversation ID. Okay, the conversation ID will be a UUID, and obviously we need it to be generated at random. The next thing is the content. What is the content, or what is the conversation, the actual message between the user and the AI, which will be a text. And the next thing would be the role. Okay, and it will also be a text column. We'll just save it. Now, the last column that we are going to create here is the column for conversation documents. So the table here is conversation documents. Disable RLS. Okay, ID will be UUID, generated random, and it will be timestamps TZ, default value as now. The next column would be the document ID, which will be also a UUID and generated randomly. And the next thing is conversation ID, which will be a UUID, okay, which is also be generated randomly. Okay, so Now, what will happen here is the conversation documents will consist of the documents and the conversation ID to just keep a track of which documents has which kind of conversation. Okay. So here what we'll be needing is the foreign keys. Okay. So basically, what are foreign keys? Let's understand that. Foreign keys help maintain referral integrity of your data by ensuring that no one can insert rows in the table that does not have matching entry into another table. So the first thing, the reference is obviously the conversation. Okay. So here, what will be the references? The conversation ID in the conversation documents will be the public conversation. Okay. And what we are going to do here is to have the action of cascade. Like if we delete from one, it will be also be deleted into the second one. Okay. So we'll just save it and we'll also add another foreign key. This foreign key would be the foreign key for the documents. So this is the foreign key that we have. The document ID will be equal to this ID. Okay, public documents, and both will be cascade again. So updating record from public documents is also update any records that reference it in this table. Okay. So now we have two foreign keys as well for this particular thing. So I'll just do one thing. I'll just save this particular database as well. Okay. So what we are doing here is we are creating different database to store different kind of things and different tables, not database. We are having different tables to store different kind of things. And in each table, there are different columns and each column will have a certain amount of things to store from the user. Okay. So this is the basic configuration for our project. This is the basic database configuration for our project. There are a couple of more configurations that we'll be needing in the upcoming videos. I'll be explaining about that. So the reason why I chose Supabase is because it's a PostgreSQL database and configure it is very easier as compared to what I've explored in other databases as well. So yeah, you can use any database that you want. It's not compulsory to use Supabase. I like Supabase. I personally went with Supabase. I have created projects using Supabase. That's the reason I have started using Supabase, and that's the reason I'm using that in the video as well. If you are familiar with Pinecone, if you are familiar with Qdrant, MongoDB, you are free to use any kind of vector database that you want. So now that we have configured the entire database, the next steps are to start with creating the backend APIs and to start with testing them so that the backend, once it is ready, we can start with integrating that into the front end part. So this was it for the video. If you like the video, make sure to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next one. Until then, bye bye.